Hello everybody, welcome to today's webinar, Using Powerstandings to Execute a World-Class Gamification Program. This is a companion webinar to the one we did 2 weeks ago, Creating a World-Class Gamification Program. If you didn't attend that webinar 2 weeks ago, I'd recommend catching it on YouTube and learn how to create your gamification strategy. For today though, we're going to be talking less about strategy, we'll be talking about execution. And how to execute your gamification program using Powerstandings. My name is Stuart Spieth. I'm a solution architect at InsideSales.com. I specialize in process optimization and sales strategy execution. Here's our plan for today. We're going to talk about gamification level set, what gamification really is, and what Powerstandings really is, and why it was designed the way it was designed. Then I'm going to show you an example gamification program, because that's going to set the context for the rest of our conversation today. After we see this example gamification program, we're going to talk about how you would execute that program as a sales leader, as an admin, or as a sales rep, and to kind of have a to-do list for each of these roles so that you know exactly what to do so you can actually execute on this strategy. So real quick, as we jump in here, I want to make sure we are as interactive as possible. Go ahead, folks, and why don't you chat? You can see the question answer fields down there at the bottom of the webinar tool. Go ahead and shoot over a message telling me your name, where you're from. Would love to start interacting right now, and let's get that going. Okay, awesome. So it looks like we've got Tim from Ohio. Jennifer's chatting in. Jennifer from Atlanta, and we've got one person from LA, Stephanie. Awesome. Okay, great. So we've got those three folks who've chatted. Looks like we're up and going, good to go. All right, folks. So we're going to get moving, and we're going to kick it off talking about, again, we're going to level set what gamification is. What is gamification? Gamification is the application of game principles and design to sales so that we can improve rep motivation and productivity. So game principles like points, competition, teamwork, time constraints. When we have recognition and reward, those things, when we put that into the sales floor and the sales process, we see improved results. And the reason why it works so well is because it really helps your reps engage more in their job and be actively focused on hitting their numbers. It provides greater visibility for everybody on the team and has this culture of praise, or creates this culture of praise. So that's why gamification works. That's what it is. What I'm going to talk about next is what Powerstandings is. Powerstandings is a gamification tool, right? So it helps bring all of those elements of a game into the sales floor, like points, challenges, rep-to-rep competitions. It's interactive. What Powerstandings is not, it's not a reporting engine. So if you need to understand trends for your sales organization, your sales team, to see how they've improved or changed over the last year or 2 years, you're not going to use Powerstandings to do that. If you want to know if a certain rep has reached quota for the quarter, Powerstandings is not your tool. It's not a reporting engine. Again, it's a gamification tool. It's very effective for that. But you need to understand the difference there so that you can use the tool properly and move forward the best way possible. Okay, so that's gamification. That's Powerstandings. What we're going to do next is talk about an example gamification strategy. Here we have it planned out a month in advance. We have a different KPI we're going to focus on each week of the month. Right? You've got self-sourced leads, dials, talk time, and finish off the month bringing in more opportunities. So there you have a plan nailed down. And what I'm going to do next, this slide here is actually kind of a repeat slide from our webinar 2 weeks ago. Really great slide. We're going to take it a step deeper now and talk about the specific games we're going to play on the sales floor for each of these KPIs. So here's a good example of what we could do here. For our self-sourcing KPI, the game is actually going to be pretty I don't know, fluffy, I guess, for lack of a better term, but we're going to let reps get at least 10 leads per day, and we're going to encourage the whole team. Everyone's going to encourage each other and, you know, keep each other motivated to get that done. Week 2 is where we would bring in the Powerstandings tool. Well, and so let me back up. The self-sourced leads is going to be in Powerstandings as well, but with week 2, we're going to put the dials competition into a challenge in Powerstandings, right? So there with option 1, it says with the top power hour dialer each day is going to enter their name in for a drawing for movie tickets, right? So we're going to have a power hour every day and have a dials competition. I'll show you how to add that KPI to a leaderboard and show you how to issue a challenge for that dials challenge. Okay, so anyway, here's a good example of a well thought out gamification strategy, very detailed. The things here that I'm showing you in green, those are really what we're going to cover today, and show you how to put these things into the leaderboard, how to issue challenges, and how to execute these items using the Powerstandings tool. One other thing we're going to touch on that's really cool is a concept of Throwdown Thursday, encouraging reps to compete one with another using this throwdown feature of the Powerstandings tool. So that's coming up as well. All right, so there's kind of the high level view of what we're going to talk about. Where we're headed next then is we're going to dive in to 3 different roles and talk about the specific things these people need to do to execute this strategy. So we're going to touch on our sales leader first. Here's the to-do list for a sales leader. Right? If you're a leader trying to get your team motivated, trying to use Powerstandings to do it, these are the things you've got to do. Set up KPIs in Powerstandings, get your leaderboard up and going, and then once that's in place, you're going to run challenges using Powerstandings, and you're going to run those challenges with a routine and engage with your team while Powerstandings kind of backs you up. Okay, so let's dive in. Setting up your Powerstandings KPIs. Let me stop real quick. I just want to touch on this real quick. Guys, we're going to go through a lot of buttons and settings here on this webinar. We run the risk of, just getting lost in the weeds. I want to make sure that I have your attention. Again, lots of buttons and settings, but I'm going to give you this in a very quick, concise manner. And if you act on the things that I show you today, you're going to be in a good place to use Powerstandings the way it was designed, and you're going to see some good results. Okay, so here we go. Time for the sales leader. So the sales leader, they've got, based on that program we showed you before, if I'm a sales leader, I've got Salesforce leads, self-sourced leads, dials, talk time, and opportunities created. I've got to get this stuff into Powerstandings, right? So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go in Salesforce, click on the Inside Sales tab, and then click on Key Performance Indicators. That's going to bring me to a page that looks like this. All right. So the Inside Sales tool gives me a set of KPIs that can be used. All right. And my first step here is I want to edit the KPIs that I'm going to use for my team, and I'm going to assign a specific point value for each KPI. All right, so and this is how you do that. You'll find the KPI you want to use, click Edit, and then you're going to edit the points field and put the point value that you want here. This example here, you see this is a qualified opportunity. I'm giving it 50 points, and then I'm going to click Save. All right, so then I'm going to repeat that for every KPI that I want to use. Now you'll notice here on this screen, when you go to the Inside Sales tab, Key Performance Indicators, you're going to see 2 different types of KPIs. Here in the Setup type column, you can see you've got automatic KPIs and manual KPIs. All right, so the reason why this is important is because you might have a question. Hey, Stuart, thanks for this list of KPIs. My team actually has a KPI that is not on this list, and we need to track it. What do I do? So here's what you can do there. You're going to find that you can rename one of these KPIs, especially the manual ones. So you'll click Edit on a KPI, and you can change the name to whatever you want. So if you have a KPI custom for your sales process, go ahead and add that in, click Save, and you're going to see it update to the name of your custom specific KPI. Okay, so that's why Powerstandings gives you lots of flexibility to make sure you're tracking what is important to you and your team. All right, so we just went over how to add points, how to rename a KPI. The next thing you need to do here is you need to deactivate any KPI that you don't want to use, right? You have a huge list there. You don't want to use all that stuff. So find a KPI that you're not going to use, click Edit, zero out the points value, uncheck the active checkbox, and then click Save. All right, so you want to do that for every KPI you're not going to use, so in the end you have something like this. I've highlighted the KPIs I am using, so each of those you can see they have a points value assigned, and then any other KPI that I'm not using, it's zeroed out, and I've actually unchecked the active checkbox. This is important because this will make it easier for you as a sales leader to set up your leaderboard, and when your admin goes to create Salesforce workflow rules and do what they need to do for these KPIs, it'll be easier for them, and it's going to be easier for the reps to use the tool. So definitely make sure you zero out anything you're not going to use and deactivate them. All right? So that was step 1 as a sales leader when you're ready to execute your strategy using Powerstandings. Step 2, it's time to set up your leaderboard. With your KPIs decided, now you can come in here, go to the Inside Sales tab, click on Manage Leaderboards, create new leaderboard, and now you can add the KPIs you have active. You can select them and add them here to the leaderboard settings. I'm not going to go through every little field there, but you can see an example of how I've set it up. All right. Next, if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, you're going to see an Events section at the bottom. You're going to click Edit Events, and this window will pop up. And you want to check the box for anything that you want to show up in the events feed in your leaderboard. You also have the full screen column there. So anytime in this example you've got a qualified opportunity, it's checked for both events feed and full screen. So if one of my reps qualifies an opportunity, my Powerstandings leaderboard is going to announce that event, and it'll kind of take over the full screen of the leaderboard to do that. So definitely want to make sure you're conscious about your events feed and your full screen. Do what's necessary there. And then, boom, here's an example of how a leaderboard would look after it's set up. All right, cool. So that was step 1 and 2 as a sales leader. Step 3, you're going to run some challenges using Powerstandings. So this is going to be a really exciting piece. You're going to love doing this with the right KPIs. So here's how you do it. Go to the Inside Sales tab, click Challenges, create new challenge, and then simply fill out the settings for the challenge. It's quite intuitive. You're going to figure this out. That's why I'm not going to go through every little field here, but you can see an example of how I've done it. One thing I'm going to call out, though, is the challenge time period. I'm calling this out because you need to be deliberate about the time period you select. You can see there's options, one time, and then reoccurring daily, weekly, or monthly. I just want to, although that's there in the product, I personally, as a sales leader, wouldn't do a reoccurring regularly, right? Because you don't want your challenge to run stale. You don't want your reps to start, to start disrespecting the challenge, frankly. You want this thing to be fresh and on the top of everyone's mind, and you run the risk of having it go stale if you have a recurring challenge all the time. So anyway, just call that out. And the reason why I say that as well, calling out these fields, is because you want to schedule these in advance. Here's an example. So if I have a dials competition here on the 2nd week of the month, I'm going to schedule that towards the end of the 1st week. So the Friday before I run that challenge, I'm going to get that challenge scheduled up in the tool. All right. And so once it's scheduled, let me show you a little bit. Oh, no, hang on. I got to show you this real quick. So you need to understand that not all KPIs or not all games should be run with the Powerstandings challenge. So let me be clear. Any of your KPIs can and should be added to the leaderboard, okay, for everybody to see to increase visibility. but you may or may not want to run a challenge with Powerstandings. Okay, so here, this is a list of things to look at. These are good KPIs to run a challenge with in Powerstandings. Dials, correct contacts, Salesforce leads. These are leading indicators that when they're done, the data is available in the CRM immediately, and it can fire off in the leaderboard immediately. Some things that are not really a good fit for a Powerstandings challenge are they're activities that they can take more time to complete for the rep, and also it may take time for the data to sync into the CRM. So talk time, opportunities created. Actually, I would say, anyway, so there's the list that you want to be careful about putting in Powerstandings. These are kind of more lagging indicators in the sales process. The reason why I say that is because your Powerstandings challenges, they can be a very effective tool, but sometimes you may want to use a Salesforce report to run your gamification game. And you can certainly review the performance of all your reps looking at a Salesforce report and email those results out midday, end of day, and keep track that way. And you want to use both. You want to have variety as you run these games and these challenges, okay? So use Powerstandings for the appropriate KPIs. Use a Salesforce report for the appropriate KPIs. Use both, okay? And just want to make sure you're aware of that there, okay? This is a bracket, an example of how you could run a throwdown Thursday. I'll get in later into how the reps can actually issue throwdowns one to another, but you can organize a tournament bracket up front so everybody knows who's going to compete against who, and then you can run that throwdown Thursday. All right, so one thing to note here, when you schedule a challenge in Powerstandings for those KPIs that are right fit, right, you're going to schedule it, and then right afterwards you're going to see this here on your Challenges tab. You're going to see the status of your challenge, that it's scheduled. It gives you the start time of the challenge. When the challenge actually begins, the status changes to active, so then you know it's underway. And you can always go from that page, you can click View, and when you click View, you're going to see the current state or current progress of the challenge. Who's leading the pack, what the rank is across the team. When the challenge is all done, you'll see the final results, who ended up winning and what was their achievement there on that particular KPI. So that's how you as a manager then can, once a challenge is issued, you can always keep track of where the team is. These numbers, of course, are also going to show up in the leaderboard, right? Here's how the leaderboard is going to look. Challenge begins, boom, full screen announcement, challenge is underway. And then as reps take the lead and that leader changes, it'll be announced if you set that up in the leaderboard appropriately. And then when the challenge is over, the leaderboard's going to tell you who won. The reps also have visibility into this in their personal Powerstandings sidebar. So they can open up their profile page, and they can see this screen here, and they're going to get announcements in their sidebar when the challenge begins, who's leading it, and when it's over. So that's how, as a manager, as a sales leader, you can keep track of the results of your challenge and keep your team engaged while that challenge is underway. All right. So number 4 here, for a sales leader, you want to establish a very clear routine to engage with your reps. You can't just let Powerstandings, run autopilot and do everything for you. You still need to be very much engaged. So here's an example of what a good manager would do. In the morning, they would meet up with their team, have a team huddle, and the manager would announce the challenge or the game for the day and make sure everybody knows about the incentive as well, if there's a reward they're going to get if they win, or as the team if they achieve the goal. Okay, and then during the day, you can see here the manager action column. You need to review the progress of the team. How are they doing on the challenge? And you need to send email updates to the team throughout the day. Make sure everybody knows how they're doing, and draw attention to the leaderboard. that leaderboard is going to be facilitating the challenge, and it's going to be a good tool for you. At the end of the day, huddle up with the team again, announce who won the game or if the team reached it together, and hand out the prizes. So if you run a routine like this and you're actively engaged as a manager, and in addition to that, you've got Powerstandings backing you up with all its interactive features, bam, that is a state you want to be in, and that's executing a good gamification program. All right, so that's it for our manager or sales leader portion on how to execute your gamification strategy. I'm going to take a second and just review our questions coming in from the attendees here. Okay, yep. I've got Stephanie chiming in, and she's wondering, hey, Stuart, thanks for that. What I really want to know is for our custom KPIs, how do we get those custom KPIs to show up in the leaderboard? Because we're not really sure there. And then that question came up actually as well. If you caught the webinar 2 weeks ago, that question came up. So it's actually pretty good timing there, Stephanie. We're going to show you next how to activate a custom KPI so that it actually starts counting in the leaderboard. What I'm going to do to do that here as well is I'm going to actually show you this live in Salesforce here. Almost ready. Stick with me, folks. Okay, awesome. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to demo for you a self-sourced lead KPI, right? So as a sales leader, I think it's important for my people to find their own leads and be strategic about the leads they find. But I want to make sure they find a good quantity every day, right? So this is a KPI I'm tracking. So what I'm going to do then is I've told my team every time they find a new lead, they're going to create the lead and they're going to log the lead source as self-sourced. All right, and if they log a lead with the self-sourced lead source, boom, that's going to count for their KPI, right? So there we just created a lead, and I'm going to show you it shows up in our leaderboard here as well. You can see here Stuart just went up from 3 to 4. Boom. Okay, so that's how it works, right? My sales rep takes that action, boom, it shows up in the leaderboard. That's great, but Stephanie's question is still kind of up in the air. Okay, what did you do in Salesforce to enable that functionality? What does Salesforce have to do to tell the leaderboard to start counting that action? Okay, that's what I'm about to show you now. So what you need to do is you have to build a Salesforce workflow rule. If you're new to Salesforce, this will be really important for you to pay attention. If you've been working with Salesforce for quite a while, this is going to be a no-brainer for you. But I'm going to show you how to build a workflow rule that will trigger that self-sourced lead to be counted in the leaderboard. Here we go. So you're going to click on Setup in Salesforce, search Workflow, click Workflow Rules, and then click New Rule. All right. From New Rule, you're going to select the object that you want to work with. In this case, this is going to be counting new leads. I'm going to select Lead. All right, then I'm going to give this thing a name. I'm going to start my naming convention all the time with ISDC or InsideSales.com, something that tells me that this workflow rule is specifically for the InsideSales.com tool, right? And then I'm going to qualify it even further and name it Powerstandings, and then I'm going to type my rule name, okay, for the KPI. So this is a self-sourced lead, and I'm just going to put example here. Okay, so give that a name and follow that naming convention I just showed you there. Next is the evaluation criteria. This is really important. So as you build workflow rules for Powerstandings, you're always going to use created or created and anytime it's edited to subsequently meet that criteria, right? Those are, it's very rare that you would ever select the middle option. You're going to be doing created or created and edited, okay? In this case, this is a created KPI. I want to track every time a rep creates a new lead that's self-sourced. So I'm going to do created, And then I'm going to jump down to the rule criteria, and I'm going to go find my lead source field here. Almost there. Here we go. Lead source. Boom. Found it finally. Okay, so lead source equals self-sourced. Boom. Okay. And that's the way I want it to work. So whenever a rep creates a lead source is self-sourced, that's when this thing is going to fire off. Okay. I'm going to hit save and next. And now I'm going to tell Salesforce what to do. And what Salesforce needs to do is it needs to send a message to InsideSales.com saying, hey, a rep just created a lead with self-sourced as a lead source. Can you please count that rep or count that KPI for that rep? So that is actually an outbound message, new outbound message. All right. And then I have some fields here to complete for that. I'm going to focus first on the most important one, endpoint URL. Okay, this is the URL where Salesforce is going to send this message to InsideSales.com, right? So I need to get this URL from somewhere, and I actually, logically, I'm going to find it under the Inside Sales tab. So I'm going to go real quick. I'm going to go to the Inside Sales tab. I'm going to open that link in a new tab, okay? And I'm going to go to that, go to Key Performance Indicators, and I'm going to find my KPI that I'm building this workflow rule for, all right? So in this case, I'm building this for our self-sourced lead KPI. All right, I'm going to copy the post URL, highlight that post URL, hit Control-C on my keyboard, and I'm going to go back to my outbound message window, and then I can paste the post URL right there in the endpoint URL field. Okay, so now Salesforce knows where to send the message. Hey, so-and-so created a lead. Boom, sends it to this URL, okay? And that's what's going to make it count in the leaderboard. So go ahead and put your endpoint URL there. And then the next thing that's really important here is these lead fields to send. You've got to tell Salesforce which information to send to the leaderboard so the leaderboard can count it properly. So in this case, my reps, they own their leads. And even when especially when they create them themselves, they own the leads. And I'm going to put owner ID here in this fields to send. That way, the leaderboard knows who to give credit to when that message is sent. Okay, so owner ID is what I'm going to select there. I'm going to fill out these other fields, and I would give it the same name as the workflow rule in the beginning, and then we're ready. So there's their outbound message is done. With that, we're going to click Save. Just got a little mishap here. Bear with me for a second. Boom. So save it, then you're going to click Done up in the top right corner. And then finally, you're going to activate. Make sure you click this Activate button, and that will make that KPI start to count. I'm not going to click Activate because I've already got a workflow rule in place for this, okay? All right, woo! There's a lot of steps. But that is how you build a workflow rule that will trigger a custom KPI in the leaderboard. All right, what I'm going to do next is jump back to our slide deck here. So stick with me just for a second. Good. So back to the slide deck. I showed you just then, again, how to create that self-source lead KPI. I'm going to show you a few more examples of some neat KPIs that I've seen my customers build and I've built for my customers that you may be interested in doing. Here's one that's really cool. Dollars in pipeline. Okay, so this is going to track for every rep that qualifies an opportunity, it's going to track the dollar value and sum all of their opportunities up and show me how much revenue that rep is scheduled to bring in, and have that show up on the leaderboard. So here's how you would build that the workflow rule to facilitate that KPI. Opportunity amount not equal to blank, stage, select the appropriate stage. And this is really important. When you select the fields to send on the outbound message, you need to send the owner ID and also the amount field, so that the leaderboard knows to display the amount of the dollars in their pipeline. Okay, so that's the dollars in pipeline KPI. Pretty cool KPI to put into Powerstandings. Here's another example. Opportunities created. This is how you would do it. I'm not going to talk through every little detail there, but I'll let you look at it. Here's one more example for you. Demo held. So this one is actually based off of a task. So whenever my reps log a call, and they actually, on that call, they did a demo, I'm going to have them check a box on the activity, just demo held, checkbox. They'll check that, and that'll count this KPI for them. So that's how this one's set up. You can see that there. All right. So real quick, we've gone through how to set these up, given you some solid examples. What are some pitfalls that people run into when they create these KPIs? Because what happens a lot of times, our customers will be really excited about Powerstandings. They try to get going. They're like, oh man, Stuart, it's just not working. We don't see, the numbers aren't showing up in the leaderboard. What's going on? 95% of the time, I'd say even more than that, it's one of these pitfalls here. And I always iron it out for my customers, get them up and going. So here's some things that you need to watch out for when you're getting these KPIs added to the leaderboard. Number one, it's unclear what the reps have to do for the KPI to count, right? So the admin sets it up, and then the reps go off to the races. They start using the tool, and they don't actually update the right fields for the KPI to count, right? Because they don't know, and it just hasn't been communicated clearly. So that's one pitfall. Another pitfall, the steps to trigger the KPI are actually too complicated. I've had some customers where it's like, oh yeah, for my demos KPI, they need to have the lead status in qualified. They have to check the box on the activity, and then they have to be in the office at a certain time. Anyway, my point is, you've got to be very clear and straightforward with these KPIs. It can't be too complicated. Make it very simple. Here's an example of a very complicated one there. You can see the filters there. The last pitfall is that an error is somewhere in their logic for the workflow rule or their outbound message. They think they've got it right, but as we go back through and we take it one step at a time, they often will find, oh yeah, there's an error in my workflow rule, or I set it up improperly. Okay, so if you can pay attention to these three pitfalls and make sure you don't run into these, you're going to be in really good shape. Your KPIs are going to work great in your leaderboard. All right, so that is it for our admin portion on how to execute this gamification strategy in Powerstandings. We've got one more section to go through here. We're going to talk about what a sales rep needs to do to execute this strategy, because they're probably the most important part. So the things the sales rep needs to do, here we have them. Here's their to-do list. They've got to make sure they know the components of the sidebar. They need to make sure they're uploading their picture. Sound, I would say, is more optional, but I would encourage that. And then they need to start using the throwdown feature of Powerstandings. Okay. So the components of the sidebar. Here you go. Powerstandings sidebar resides on the left side of the screen in Salesforce. It's added to the page with the homepage layout. And what the rep can do is they can see all of the KPIs that you have designated as important, right? It's right there at a glance all the time. They know what they've done for the day or how they're doing on the KPIs that you've deemed important, okay? They can go ahead and click on any of these KPIs, and when they do that, they're going to see how they stack up against the rest of the team and how they're performing on that particular KPI. So that's really cool to have available for them, and they need to be aware of that. Okay, moving on. So they can then click on this person icon or profile icon on the sidebar. That's going to open up the Powerstandings profile window. Okay, and from there, the rep is going to have a lot of things at their fingertips. So first off, they can upload their picture. their sound. I'm going to show you how to do that a little bit later. They can click on these other tabs. Achievements, they can see any achievements they've earned. Any challenges that have been issued or that are complete at this point, they can review those. Any throwdowns that are going on, they can see that, and then they have a summary of all of the points that they have earned up to this point. Okay, so those are all the components of the Powerstandings Sidebar. Make sure your reps are aware of those components, get them up to speed, get them using the tool. All right, here's how they're going to upload their picture. So again, click on that profile icon, and from here they can click on the picture area. Then, pretty simple, just search for a photo on their computer. Grab that photo, click save, and then boom, your picture will show up in your Powerstandings Sidebar. Okay, so that's how you upload a picture. What we're going to talk about next is the sound, which is something that my customers that upload sound love it. It really adds a lot of energy and excitement to the sales floor. It may or may not be a good fit for you, so if it's not a good fit, that's fine, but I would encourage you to see if this would work for you and have your reps upload a sound to their Powerstandings profile, right? So click on that profile. Let me go back there a step or two. Sorry to repeat here. So same idea here. You're going to click on the profile icon. That's going to open up this Powerstandings profile window. Click on the sound link, and then you can simply browse for an MP3 or WAV file. So select your audio file, and then you can select a portion of the song that you want to be played when you're using Powerstandings. You can have an 8-second portion, okay? So you'll be able to select that portion, save it, and then afterwards you're going to go back and click on the sound link, and then you'll have the option to play the portion that is selected. So you can just double check and make sure that's the way you want it to sound. You can listen to it. If you didn't get it quite right, you can go ahead and go through that step again to select a specific portion of the file. Again, 8 seconds of any song that you want to be your theme song as you just kill it on the sales floor. Select that, okay? So that's how you upload your sound as a sales rep. Finally, the throwdown. This is such an awesome tool, and so it needs to be used more. And if you use it with your sales team, it's going to be awesome. Okay, so here's how the rep will issue a throwdown. They click on the throwdown icon, and then they can fill out the throwdown settings. They're going to wager a set of points, a certain number of points. They select the players they want to compete against, the KPI they're going to compete with, and then they give it a length of time and the start time. When they issue that throwdown, the other rep is going to receive a notification. Hey, so-and-so wants to throw it down, and that rep can accept it or reject it. When they accept it, the original rep will receive a notification saying their throwdown was accepted. And then when the throwdown begins, everyone will be notified, and then when it ends, they're notified. They can also go back into their Powerstandings profile and review the throwdown, the status of the throwdown at any time, and see that there. So that's it for the sales rep to-do list, and that would conclude all three roles: our sales leader, our system administrator, and our sales rep. What everyone needs to do to execute the gamification strategy in Powerstandings. Okay, I'm going to kind of wrap this up with a few points here to make it just kind of really summarize what I've talked about. You should use the leaderboard. You should use the leaderboard for all of your KPIs, but use challenges selectively. So don't put all of your KPIs into a challenge, but certainly put them all into your leaderboard. And I showed you how to do that. The other thing, keep your KPIs simple. Make sure that's very straightforward for the reps. They need to, ideally, they update one field on one record, and then that'll trigger the KPI for them. Okay, make it very simple for them. Make sure your reps upload their photos. Get them to use throwdowns. And lastly, as a sales leader, Powerstandings is going to help you. It's going to back you up and supplement your efforts, but it cannot replace you, right? You've got to think how you're going to use the tool, and you've got to engage with your reps daily, regularly, and help them know what things are important to you, and really master your gamification strategy and your program And again, use Powerstandings as a tool in your tool belt. It's not going to do everything for you, but it will be an awesome tool if you put it to work. All right, so that that summarizes the webinar. I'm going to open it up for a few seconds here if there are any questions, and if not, we'll just conclude at this point. But let's give you a few seconds here. All right, folks, looks like we don't have any questions. Awesome. Have a fantastic day. Get in there, use Powerstandings, and start seeing results.